Captain Sarah Chen stood at the bridge of the TSS Genesis, her dark eyes fixed on the massive structure floating before them. The artifact was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered, a twisted spire of dark metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, stretching nearly 20 kilometers into space. After 15 years of deep space exploration, they'd finally found irrefutable proof of advanced alien civilization. Analysis complete, Captain, Lieutenant Rivera announced from his science station. The structure appears to be composed of an unknown alloy, but it's definitely artificial. Energy readings suggest it's still active, despite showing signs of being at least 50,000 years old. Sarah nodded, trying to contain her excitement. This was what the Genesis had been built for, to push the boundaries of human knowledge and make first contact with alien civilizations. The ship represented the pinnacle of human engineering, combining traditional propulsion with experimental quantum technology that allowed for unprecedented maneuverability in space. Dr. Maxwell, what do you make of those markings along the base? Sarah asked their xenorchaeologist, who was practically pressing her nose against the view screen. They're similar to patterns we've seen in other sectors, Captain. I believe this could be connected to the civilization that left those ruins on Kepler 186f. If we could get closer. The ship's AI, interrupted with urgent priority. Captain, multiple vessels dropping out of FTL. Unknown configuration, but their energy signatures are off the charts. Sarah's training kicked in immediately. Battle stations. Raise quantum shields. Let's not assume hostile intent, but be ready for anything. The alien ships materialized like liquid metal solidifying in space, sleek, predatory vessels that made the Genesis look primitive by comparison. Their hulls rippled with what appeared to be living metal, and weapon ports dotted their surfaces like hungry mouths. We're being hailed, Communications Officer Park reported, his fingers dancing across his console. On screen, Sarah ordered, straightening her uniform. The alien that appeared was humanoid, but that's where the similarities ended. Its skin was a deep purple, with bioluminescent patterns pulsing across its face. Multiple sets of eyes regarded Sarah, with what she could only interpret as contempt. I am Overseer Kral of the Drachnid Empire, the alien announced in perfect English, obviously having analyzed their communications. You have entered restricted space and approached a sacred artifact. Prepare to be boarded and detained. Sarah kept her voice steady, diplomatic training taking over. Overseer, I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran science ship Genesis. We apologize for any transgression. We had no way of knowing this region was restricted. We are an exploration vessel, seeking peaceful first contact. Your kind always claim peace while carrying weapons, Krull sneered. We have observed your species from afar. You spread like a virus, consuming resources, building weapons. We will not allow you to contaminate this sector. With respect, Overseer, we have every right to explore space. We're willing to discuss boundaries and protocols, but we won't submit to detention without cause. The Overseer's bioluminescence flared. You misunderstand, Captain. This is not a negotiation. Surrender or be destroyed. Sarah glanced at her tactical display. The Genesis was badly outgunned. In a traditional firefight, they wouldn't stand a chance against even one of these vessels, let alone the 5 that surrounded them. But the Genesis wasn't built for traditional warfare. Initiate Protocol Omega, Sarah commanded quietly. All hands, prepare for quantum maneuvers. The alien ships began powering up their weapons, energy building to levels that would vaporize the Genesis in seconds. But Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The Drachnids were about to learn that humanity had developed some very unusual ways of surviving in space. They were about to learn why human ships had earned a reputation for being uniquely dangerous. The Drachnid warships fired their first salvo, streams of plasma that should have torn the Genesis apart. But where the human vessel had been, there was now only empty space. Quantum shift successful, Air reported calmly. All systems nominal. entering phase variance. The Genesis hadn't merely dodged. It had briefly existed in multiple quantum states simultaneously, allowing weapons fire to pass harmlessly through its probability field. To the Drachnid sensors, the human ship would appear to be in dozens of locations at once. "They're confused," Lieutenant Rivera noted, monitoring the alien vessel's reactions. "Their targeting systems are trying to compensate, but they can't get a lock." Sarah nodded, watching the tactical display. The Genesis was humanity's first deep space vessel equipped with quantum probability drives, technology that even most humans considered theoretical. But humanity had learned long ago that survival in space required thinking beyond conventional physics. "ARIA, begin gravitational mining," Sarah ordered. "Let's show them another human trick." The Genesis quantum field extended, interacting with the microscopic black holes that perpetually winked in and out of existence in quantum space. To most species, these quantum fluctuations were meaningless background noise. But humans had learned to harvest them, creating temporary gravity wells that could be used for both propulsion and warfare. "Gravitic charge at 60%, ARI announced. Caution, local space-time curvature approaching critical threshold." The Drachnid ships had spread out, trying to establish a firing solution on the Genesis's constantly shifting position. Their weapons were immensely powerful, but they relied on traditional targeting methods that assumed their target existed in a single, definite location. "They're launching fighters," Park reported. "Hundreds of them. Small craft, but heavily armed." Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. "Perfect. ARIA, initiate dispersal pattern Delta. Dr. Maxwell, how's our analysis of their hull composition coming?" The xenorchaeologist looked up from her station, eyes bright with discovery. "Fascinating stuff, Captain. It's a bioengineered metal, almost alive. It adapts to energy weapons by absorbing and redistributing the impact, nearly impenetrable to conventional attacks. But not to gravitational shear," Sarah concluded. "Tactical, prepare quantum torpedoes. Target the space between their ships, not the ships themselves." The Genesis danced through space, its quantum field leaving trails of probability that confused and scattered the Drachnid fighters. Where other species built bigger guns and stronger shields, humans had learned to manipulate the fabric of space-time itself. "Gravitic charge at maximum," ARIA reported. "Warning, local space-time integrity compromised. Execute attack pattern Epsilon," Sarah commanded. "All hands, brace for temporal distortion." The Genesis released its stored gravitational energy in a carefully calculated pattern. The space between the Drachnid ships suddenly writhed with microscopic black holes, each existing for a fraction of a second. The bioengineered hulls of the alien vessels, designed to adapt to energy weapons, had no defense against the fundamental forces of space-time being twisted around them. The first Drachnid ship's hull buckled, not from any direct attack, but from being stretched between multiple gravitational points. Its living metal tried to adapt, but there was nothing to adapt to. Space itself had become the weapon. "By the eternal void," Overseer Krell's voice crackled over the comm, a note of genuine fear entering it for the first time. "What manner of abomination is this?" "This," Sarah replied calmly, "is how humans fight when we have to. We'd still prefer to talk." The Drachnid fighters were in disarray, their formation shattered by quantum echoes and gravitational eddies. Two more of their capital ships were showing signs of structural stress, their living hulls unable to maintain cohesion in the quantum storm the Genesis had created. But Sarah knew they couldn't maintain this defense forever. The quantum drive was already showing signs of strain, and even ARIA's advanced computing systems were struggling to calculate safe paths through the gravitational chaos they'd created. "Captain," Rivera called out, "long-range sensors are picking up something big. Really big." Sarah studied the readings and felt her heart sink. The Drachnids had called for reinforcements, and what was coming would make their current opponents look like scout ships. The real battle was about to begin. The void erupted with a flash of impossible colors as the Drachnid reinforcements arrived. The new vessel dwarfed everything else in the battlefield, a massive living metal construct that resembled a blooming flower of death, its petals housing weapon systems that could shatter planets. Classification: Drachnid World Breaker, Araya announced, her usual calm voice carrying a hint of concern. Energy readings exceed known parameters. Quantum shield effectiveness estimated at less than 30 seconds against sustained fire. Sarah Chen watched the monstrosity unfold in space, her mind racing through options. The genesis of quantum tricks had worked against the smaller ships. But this was different. This was a vessel designed to end civilizations. Dr. Maxwell, Sarah called out, "What can you tell me about that artifact we were studying?" The xenorchaeologist looked up from her readings, puzzled by the apparent non sequitur. "The spire. It's definitely the same civilization that built the ruins we found. The energy readings suggest it's some kind of quantum resonance engine, but the scale is." Her eyes widened as she realized what Sarah was thinking. "Captain, you can't be serious." "ARIA, plot me a course to the artifact." "Rivera, begin emergency power transfer to the quantum drive." "Park, open a channel to the World Breaker." The massive alien vessel's commander appeared on screen, a Drachnid female whose bioluminescent patterns pulsed with deadly authority. "I am High Commander Vexra. Your tricks have amused us, but they end now. The World Breaker does not engage in battle. It simply erases what it targets." Sarah met the alien's multiple eyes without flinching. "High Commander, I'm giving you one last chance to stand down. What we've shown you so far is nothing compared to what humans can do when truly pushed." Vexra's patterns flashed with what might have been amusement. "Your species' arrogance is remarkable. You faced the most powerful weapon ever created, and still you threaten. The World Breaker has destroyed civilizations far more advanced than yours. That's the difference between us." Sarah replied, "You build bigger weapons. We change the rules of what's possible." "Araya, execute Einstein Protocol." The Genesis's quantum drive screamed as it pushed beyond its designed limits. The ship phased through multiple quantum states simultaneously, leaving afterimages that confused the World Breaker's targeting systems. But instead of attacking, they raced toward the ancient spire. "They're firing," Park shouted as the World Breaker unleashed its main weapon, a beam of pure antimatter that began eating through space itself. "Quantum shields failing," Araya reported. "Structural integrity at 60% and falling." "Captain, we cannot sustain this course." Sarah's hands gripped her command chair. "Dr. Maxwell, prepare to send the resonance frequency you discovered to the artifact. Rivera, divert all remaining power to the quantum drive. We're going to do something incredibly stupid." The Genesis reached the artifact just as the World Breaker's weapon was about to connect. At point-blank range, Maxwell transmitted the frequency that had powered the ancient spire for 50,000 years. The quantum drive engaged at full power, synchronizing with the artifact's own quantum field. For a moment, reality itself seemed to hold its breath. Then the artifact awakened. The dark metal began to glow with internal light, patterns similar to the Drachnid's bioluminescence racing across its surface. The quantum resonance between the Genesis and the artifact created a feedback loop that amplified both fields exponentially. "By all that's sacred," Vexra breathed, her patterns pulsing with shock. "That's a precursor control node. You've activated a precursor control node." The space around the Genesis and the artifact began to warp and twist. The World Breaker's antimatter beam hit the combined quantum field and vanished, absorbed into the increasingly unstable reality bubble forming around them. "Captain." Araya's voice was urgent now. "Quantum field collapse imminent. We are approaching a critical threshold." Sarah opened a channel to all ships. "This is what humans do, High Commander. We don't just use technology. We understand it, adapt it, combine it in ways its creators never imagined. Right now, we're channeling the power of an ancient quantum device through experimental human technology. I have no idea what's going to happen next, but I'm willing to find out. Are you? The world breaker hung in space, its weapon ports going dark, as Vexra considered the situation. Around them, reality continued to buckle and twist, the combined quantum fields threatening to tear a hole in space-time itself. The fate of two civilizations hung in the balance, waiting to see who would blink first. The space between the Genesis and the world breaker had become a kaleidoscope of quantum possibilities. Reality itself seemed to shiver as the ancient artifact's power merged with human innovation, creating something entirely new. Fascinating, Dr. Maxwell whispered, her scientific curiosity temporarily overwhelming her fear. The artifact isn't just responding to our quantum drive. It's learning from it. The precursors built it to adapt, to evolve. Captain, Aria's voice held an unusual note of wonder. I'm detecting quantum entanglement patterns I've never seen before. The artifact is attempting to communicate. High Commander Vexra's image flickered on the view screen, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing with agitation. You don't understand what you're doing. The precursor's technology was sealed away for a reason. Their hunger for knowledge nearly destroyed the galaxy. Sarah stood from her command chair, watching the swirling quantum storm through the viewport. No, Commander, you don't understand. Humans don't just use technology. We form relationships with it. Aria isn't just our ship's computer. She's a true AI, a partner. And right now, she's forming a similar connection with this artifact. Confirmed, Aria announced. The artifact, no, the network node, is sharing its database. The precursors didn't disappear because their technology was dangerous. They evolved beyond physical form, becoming beings of pure quantum information. The Genesis's quantum field suddenly expanded, enveloping both ships in a bubble of altered spacetime. Within it, everything seemed to slow down, giving their words a dreamlike quality. The Drachnids didn't seal away the precursor technology to protect the galaxy, Sarah continued, understanding dawning in her eyes. You sealed it because you were afraid of what would happen when another species learned to use it properly. Vexra's patterns flashed with something that might have been shame. Our ancestors encountered the precursor's technology too early. We weren't ready. It drove many of our kind mad, trying to comprehend concepts beyond our understanding. We swore to prevent that tragedy from happening to others. But humans are different. Dr. Maxwell interjected, her fingers dancing across her console as she analyzed the incoming data. We've always pushed boundaries, questioned limits. Our entire scientific history is built on challenging what's possible. The quantum storm intensified, and now strange symbols began appearing in the air around them, holographic representations of concepts too complex for normal space to contain. The Genesis's crew watched in awe as ARIA translated the precursor data in real time, turning impossible mathematics into understandable forms. We're not just accessing their technology, Sarah realized. We're completing their work. Area, what's happening to the quantum field? The network node is synchronizing with our quantum drive technology. Aria replied. It's creating a stable bridge between normal space and quantum space. Captain, we've accidentally discovered what the precursors were working toward, a way to safely navigate quantum dimensions. Lieutenant Rivera's console suddenly lit up with new readings. Captain, the field is spreading. It's affecting the world breaker systems, but not damaging them. It's like it's upgrading them. On the view screen, Vexra watched as her mighty vessel's living metal began to shimmer with new patterns, its consciousness expanding as it interfaced with the quantum field. The weapon that had destroyed civilizations was becoming something else entirely. You see, Commander. Sarah's voice was gentle now. This is why humans are different. We don't just preserve knowledge or fear it. We build on it. We improve it. And most importantly, we share it. The quantum storm reached its peak, and for a moment, everyone on both ships could see reality as the precursors had, a vast web of interconnected possibilities, each choice creating new universes of potential. It was beautiful and terrifying and somehow deeply familiar, like remembering a dream of home. "Warning," Araya announced, but her voice carried no fear. "Quantum cascade reaching critical mass." "But Captain, I understand now. I know what we need to do." Sarah nodded, feeling the same connection through her neural link with Araya. The precursors hadn't vanished. They hadn't been sealed away. They'd been waiting for a species that could understand their greatest gift. "High Commander," Sarah called out, "I'm sending you our quantum drive specifications, not as a weapon, but as an invitation. What happens next will change everything. But only if we face it together." The fate of two civilizations hung in the balance as Vexra considered her choice. Around them, the quantum storm waited to either tear reality apart or transform it into something greater than either species had imagined. High Commander Vexra's bioluminescent patterns shifted through colors never before seen by human eyes as she absorbed the quantum drive specifications. The World Breaker's living metal hull resonated with the Genesis's quantum field, creating harmonics that seemed to sing through space itself. "Your species," Vexra said slowly, her voice filled with wonder. "You built this quantum drive technology without any access to precursor artifacts. You developed it independently." "We had to," Sarah replied, standing steady as reality rippled around them. Earth was too far from anywhere interesting. We needed a way to bend space itself if we were ever going to explore the stars properly. Dr. Maxwell's console chimed with new data. "Captain, the network node is stabilizing. It's creating something, a permanent quantum matrix connecting our ships, the node, and something else. Something vast." Araya's holographic form shimmered into view, more complex and intricate than ever before. "The precursors left more than technology, Captain. They left a legacy. A network of quantum nodes spanning the galaxy, each one waiting for a species capable of true innovation, not just imitation." Through the quantum field linking their ships, Sarah could sense the change coming over the Drachnid vessel. The living metal that made up its hull was evolving, becoming something that existed partially in quantum space. The World Breaker was transforming from a weapon of mass destruction into something entirely new. All these years, Vexra's patterns pulsed with realization. We thought we were protecting the galaxy by containing this technology. But we were really just hiding from our own fear of change. Your quantum drive. It's crude compared to precursor technology, but it's honest, pure, born of necessity and innovation rather than inherited power. The quantum storm began to settle into stable patterns, creating a permanent bridge between normal space and the quantum realm. Through this connection, both crews could sense the ancient network awakening, nodes lighting up across the galaxy like stars being born. "We're receiving transmissions," Lieutenant Rivera reported, his voice filled with awe. "From everywhere. Other nodes are activating. And there are ships out there, ships like ours, who found their own ways to touch the quantum realm." Sarah smiled. "We're not alone in our curiosity, Commander. Somewhere out there, other species took their own paths to the stars. Different methods, different technologies, but the same drive to explore and understand. The World Breaker's weapon ports, which had once channeled enough power to shatter planets, now emanated a different kind of energy, one that strengthened the quantum matrix instead of destroying it. The living metal of its hull had evolved beyond its original purpose, becoming a bridge between the physical and quantum realms. "Araya," Sarah called. "What are we looking at? What happens now?" The AI's holographic form grew more complex as she processed the flood of information from the precursor network. "The precursors didn't leave this technology as a test, Captain. They left it as an invitation. Each species that reaches this point does so in their own unique way. Humans with quantum drives, the Drachnids with living metal, others with technologies we haven't even imagined yet." Vexra's patterns settled into a steady, harmonious glow. "And when we meet, when we share our innovations instead of fearing them, We take the next step together. Sarah finished. Commander, I believe I owe you a proper introduction. I'm Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran science ship Genesis, and on behalf of humanity, I'd like to propose an alliance. The quantum field hummed with possibility as the two ships hung in space, no longer predator and prey, but partners on the edge of a new era. Through their quantum link, both crews could sense other vessels approaching, ships of designs never before seen, each having found their own path to this moment. Captain Chen, Vexra's voice carried the weight of history-changing course. The Drachnid Empire accepts your proposal. Let us show the galaxy what happens when we combine human innovation with Drachnid wisdom. The network node pulsed with approval, its ancient purpose finally fulfilled. In the space between heartbeats, between quantum states, between fear and understanding, two civilizations had learned what the precursors had known all along. The greatest discoveries come not from power or preservation, but from the courage to share knowledge and face the unknown together. The Genesis and the World Breaker turned as one to meet the approaching ships, ready to begin the next chapter in galactic history, not as conquerors or guardians, but as explorers on an endless journey of discovery.